scripture reading this morning is from John 1, verses 1 through 5 and 14. I'll be reading from the New Revised Standard Version. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of the Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. This is the reading from God's holy word.
Pray with me. Consecrate me now to thy service, Lord, by the power of grace divine. Let my soul look up with a steadfast hope, and my will be lost in thine. Grant, O God, that the words of my mouth and the meditation of each of our hearts would find acceptance in your sight. God, who is our strength and our Redeemer. It's in the name of Christ that we pray. Amen. So we're in the middle of this sermon series called At the Movies, and the point is not to try to read more into movies than what's there. The idea is that we always need to be able to take things that are part of everyday culture and connect them to the Christian life. And this is especially true when it comes to sharing our faith with people. We need to find common connection points, and there are movie geeks out there. And we need to be able to give an answer for the hope that we have. There's two questions that guide each week of this, and I don't think I've said it yet. I've said it in past sermons, but I was having a conversation with someone this week about this series, and I said anytime we connect something in culture, there's two questions we have to ask, and there it is. One, what does this teach us about the nature of God? And two, what does this teach us about how to live the Christian life? So every week when I pick these movies that are recent movies that are popular right now, that's the two questions I've asked myself as I've processed through this. What does this movie teach us about the nature and character of God? And what does it teach us about how it is that we are to follow God, how God expects us to live? So the first week we started with Beauty and the Beast, and the theme was saved by love, that we are saved by God's love, but we're also transformed by it. We're sent out to share that love with other people. Last week we considered the film Jumanji, how a diverse group of people, such as a diverse group of people in a church, come together with unique gifts and talents and use those all for the common good. That's how Paul phrases it. Each is given a manifestation by the Spirit for the common good. So today we're turning to one of the most recent and, in my opinion, best superhero movies in recent memory, and it's called The Black Panther. And it's a powerful, it's a popular movie. It has quickly become one of the highest grossing films of all time. We love superhero movies in general as a culture. These are some of the highest grossing films that there are. Just yesterday it was announced that the new Avengers movie, Endgame, which is a superhero movie, surpassed Avatar as the highest grossing film of all time. So now the highest grossing film of all time is a superhero movie. Now, you can say what you want about all these different superheroes, Spider-Man, Superman, whatever. Batman's the best, and we can argue about that later. But we're talking about Black Panther today. We have an appetite for superheroes in the United States, especially since 9/11. Since 9/11, this is the top movie genre. More movies have been made featuring superheroes than anything else since September 11th. We just can't get enough of it because we want to believe that there's someone who can save us, someone who represents us, someone who represents what we stand for as Americans. Black Panther, however, isn't just any other superhero movie. Yeah, there's the action of a superhero, but there's a lot of politics in this movie, and there's a romance story going on. There's the good versus evil. There's the struggle of ethics happening. The Black Panther, like most superheroes, first arrived in comic books, and he first arrived in Marvel comic books in 1966. And this is the height of the Civil Rights Movement, so you can understand why the Black Panther was an interesting choice. He was the first black superhero. He shows up first in an edition of the Fantastic Four, and he shows up into a world that's struggling with racism and discrimination. I have a slide here that Marty's going to throw up. It's It's the first time that any mention of the Black Panther shows up. And you probably can't read all this. They're the Fantastic Four riding around in this great glider. They ask where he got it from. And he says it was an unexpected gift sent to me by an African chieftain called the Black Panther. That's the first mention. But then down here, it says, never heard of him. But how does some refugee from a Tarzan movie lay his hands on this kind of gizmo? So even in this introductory moment of the Black Panther, the statement like that kind of drips with racism. A refugee from a Tarzan movie. And as we first encounter the Black Panther, there's all these stereotypes that are thrown around about Africans and in general African countries. So the Black Panther comes, whose real name is King T'Challa. He emerges to show us that he's different from those stereotypes that are being thrown around. He's a warrior king who's really a genius. He has really deep pockets. He rules his kingdom with generosity, humility, peace, and patience. He's the king of a fictional African country called Wakanda. Wakanda is an isolated nation that's extremely technologically advanced. And their king rules them justly, and he manages their resources well. This is an alternate storyline to the racist reality of the day. Wakanda is so rich because they have unlimited access to the strongest metal ever discovered, vibranium. And they've been able to use it to build their civilization, to build advanced weapons, and they've used it to hide themselves from the outside world. They're afraid of what would happen if the others got a hold of the vibranium. They're afraid of it being used to wage war. They're afraid of it being used to subjugate Wakanda to everyone else. So they hide, literally, they hide their country in plain sight. Everyone thinks it's the poorest third world country there is. And the king, T'Challa, is given special powers because of the vibranium, because of the vibranium technology in his suit. And the king is known as the Black Panther. So in the first clip we're going to see Prince T'Challa. He's not king yet. He's headed back to the country of Wakanda because his father has died. And he's going to be crowned as the new Black Panther. And the reason I'm showing you this clip is I want you to see the beauty and the complexity of this nation that's hiding in plain sight, Wakanda. Let's have a look. Wakanda is beautiful. It's complex. It's hiding in plain sight. The Black Panther as a hero since 1966, and especially since this movie came out last year, has been really important to the Black community because he was written to represent them. And like I said, he was the first one to do so. Just like Wonder Woman was written to represent girls and empower women, Captain America was written for Jewish folks, of all things. The first issue we see of Captain America, he's punching Hitler in the mouth. It was written for a time such as that. Batman was written for orphans and those who felt different. And Superman was written for everyone who wanted someone that could stand for truth and justice in the American way. Over time, we start to see ourselves in these characters, not just superheroes, but in characters in movies and literature as well. I told you I love Batman. I love him because he has no superpowers. He's just really smart and filthy rich. And he uses his intellect and his resources to protect Gotham. And for someone who feels like I'm not Superman, Batman represents me. He uses what he has. It's good to feel represented. And the linchpin of our faith is that the God of the universe, the one who said, let there be, and there was, the one who separated the day from the night, the one who caused land to appear from the sea, the one who created human beings in his own image, the one who is wholly other, has become one of us. Jesus represents us. We see in Jesus this power, this presence, this authentic humanity that we can relate with. And that's why we love Christmas so much. We love the lights and the gifts, and we love the 11 o'clock Christmas Eve service, but there's something that's so relatable about the idea. And every year at Christmas, we read John chapter 1, just like we did this morning. And this is what it says. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and that life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. And when we celebrate that, we celebrate that hope is born in a way that we can see. God doesn't come to us in some kind of detached way, but comes to us crying in a manger and wrapped in swaddling clothes. God comes to us approachable. He comes to us relatable. Jesus grows up as one of us. He experiences the same things that we do. He goes through the same struggles that we do. When he's 12 years old, his family goes on a trip to the temple, and they get 2 days into the return trip before they realize that Jesus is missing. He's had the experience of his parents forgetting him. He chooses a relatable and workable trade like his earthly father Joseph, and he becomes a builder. He had all the luxuries and powers of being God, but Philippians 2 says that he didn't exploit his godness. He didn't press the God button. Rather, he hangs out with ordinary people. He hangs out with fishermen. He hangs out with bad people, tax collectors. He welcomes sinners and eats with them. Jesus represents all of us. And we all come to church on a Sunday morning for different reasons. Some of us want to hear an incredibly gifted and handsome pastor. Some want to sing. Some want to be reminded that they're not alone. Others need to say thank you. Others need to plead before God. And the beauty of this relatable God is that no matter what the need, Jesus meets us here. And what would our faith be like if Jesus didn't do that? What if this light that is the light of all people didn't shine in the darkness? What if the Word didn't become flesh and dwell among us? What if he would have kept all of the glory and majesty and power of heaven all to himself and didn't share it? But he didn't hide. The light does shine in the darkness. And Jesus does want to be our hope and wants our hope to be in him. But he also wants us to become like him. Not hiding in plain sight. In the midst of the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus says this: "You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hidden. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." The light shines in the darkness. Jesus, the light of all people, shines in the darkness, but he wants us to become like him and let our light shine to illuminate every dark heart, every dark corner of this world, not to be hidden in plain sight, as the nation of Wakanda is, but to shine in the darkness. We can't hide. We can't wait for someone else to do it. We can't just play the way the rest of culture does. Martin Luther King Jr. famously wrote, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5:20, we are ambassadors for Christ, as if God is making his appeal through us. We are Christ's ambassadors, changed by his love and light and given his love and light to shine for others. And this requires us to live out. We can't sit in our happy little comfort zones while darkness overtakes the world. We have to be the light. The church cannot sit by and wait for someone else to do it. We have to live out. And this is one of the things that King T'Challa wrestles with in Black Panther. Wakanda has been hidden from plain sight for so long because they don't want to be exploited and they don't want to be taken advantage of. But there are some who think that they should be sharing their resources with the world, that they should be the light. After T'Challa is crowned king, his love interest, Nakia, pushes him. She thinks that Wakanda should be doing more. She reminds him that Wakanda has so much, but there are people out there who have nothing, and she thinks that Wakanda should be doing a lot more. Let's have a look. So there's this struggle going on within him of what Ikea says they should be doing, of providing more aid, of not hiding, and the heritage that he has inherited from his father and his father of hiding Wakanda and protecting Wakanda and staying in their happy little bubble. Later in the film, he learns that his father, whom he idolized, was not as perfect as he had assumed. Kings have to make difficult choices. In his attempts to keep Wakanda safe and hidden in plain sight from the rest of the world, T'Challa's father had actually killed his own brother and left his nephew orphaned. And T'Challa can't accept that. That's not the way to keep Wakanda safe. So T'Challa comes to terms with this, and he realizes that he can indeed protect his people and be a light to the rest of the world. So in this last scene, he takes his sister, the technological whiz kid who makes all of the cool Wakandan toys. He takes her to California, and he tells her that from now on, things are going to be different. Let's have a look one more time. The light starts to shine in the darkness. Wakanda will no longer be hidden in plain sight. They will be sharing what they have with the rest of the world. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. You are the light of the world. The city on a hill cannot be hid. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a bushel basket, but instead they put it on a lampstand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. We can't hide in plain sight. We have to give away what we've been given. I think about the pastor who led me to faith in Jesus. He was the product, him and his twin brother, of a rape. But he was adopted by a godly family. What if they would have hidden in plain sight and not adopted him? What if he had not been poured into and given the light of the gospel? But he was, and someone led him to Christ, and he became a pastor. He could have kept the light all to himself. He could have hidden in plain sight. But instead, he became a pastor, and he spent his summers in weeks of church camp pouring into young boys and girls. And he was the one that convinced me that God was real, that Jesus did love me, that I was worth something. He could have kept that light to himself, but I am grateful that he let his light shine in the darkness. In church, we cannot hide in plain sight. We have to live out. We have to pour into people. We have to inspire them to have hope, to become better, to become like Jesus. There are people not that far from here who are living in desperate situations. There are people maybe in this room whose heart are in desperate places. We have to live out. Invite them, inspire them to have hope, to become better, to become like Jesus. We have to let our light shine until no corner is left dark. Let's pray.